Peter Schrager, the NFL Network. Good Morning Football co-host and a senior national writer. Went to Emory University. Has Emory ever made the tournament, Peter?
Division III team. They've had their moments, but not at the Division I. Can I tell you, I am such a fool, Dan. I was so excited to have like a pizza and a beer at noon Eastern and watch all the. I just found out literally this morning, that they're doing this staggered thing, and I texted Ian Eagle. I'm like, "What game are you on today?" And he's like, "Dude."
Yeah, you're out of touch. How did you? Who do you have winning, by the way?
I had my 4-year-old son do my bracket. He likes Maryland because they wore yellow one time. So we're going to go with Maryland.
That's a gutsy call, but
went for it.
Yeah. Whatever your philosophy is. All right, how would you sum up this week of free agency?
Kind of fun. Like the Patriots thing, I can't talk enough about. I got Belichick behind me on my screen here. I think that they zig when everyone else zags, and I'm here for it. The salary cap is down $15 million. A lot of these teams are preparing for it to go up $15 million. So think about that $30 million differential. So all of them thought they were doing one strategy. Let's just be smart with our money and wait these players out. And Belichick pounced. It's almost like he saw a market inefficiency. I'm fascinated to see how this works out. This is against everything he has been about for 20 years as a head coach and personnel man. But they broke the bank, and they got some good talent. I don't know if they got any A-plus talent, but they certainly are relevant again in the AFC. And I just thought the strategy was so interesting from Belichick.
Is he building an offense that it suits Cam Newton?
Yeah, that I mean, those tight ends, that's what that's telling me. That's telling me we got to get additional blocking, and we're also going to get that 10 to 15-yard intermediary stuff, and we're not looking for you to throw that deep. I don't know if Cam Newton can throw the ball 15 yards anymore. I honestly don't. I didn't see it towards the end of the season. But when you have all these guys like Jonnu and then Edelman, and then now you add in Hunter Henry, who I think could be fantastic, you've got big bodies who can run the intermediary routes and can block. So
yeah, but if you have guys that – like, I don't understand this. Why are you set at quarterback if you got a quarterback who can't throw?
I don't know if they think they're set at quarterback. They have a quarterback, and these guys play to his suit, suit his stuff. So in the very near term, their offense got significantly better over the last 4 days than they were last year. And I think it's a bit of not humble pie, but like for years, Belichick didn't do this. And one of the reasons why was like you build through the draft, you let your free agents sign elsewhere, and then you get the compensatory picks, and you get a bunch of 3rd and 4th round picks, and we can draft a Gronk or an Aaron Hernandez, or whatever. They've whiffed in the draft the last few years with the 3rd and 4th round picks. So essentially, he's like, we're not going to get big compensatory picks from the free agents that are leaving because no one really besides Joe Tooney is a big name. So let's just do it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get them. I just don't know if Aguilar and Bourne necessarily make this wide receivers group what they have down in Tampa Bay overnight.
And you got some wide receivers who are still out there. Kenny Golladay, Smith-Schuster, Will Fuller. Where do you see? Could they be changing the structure of the power structure in the NFL?
I think a lot of these guys and their agents are waking up on a Thursday morning a little bewildered, surprised, and now having to readjust what they expected. Look, Kenny Golladay was offered a really handsome 2-year deal by the Lions during the season. He turned it away because he wanted to hit free agency. His agent, Todd France, is the same agent as Dak Prescott. He said, let's bet on ourselves and you'll get more money elsewhere. Well, I don't know if that money's there right now. And now Kenny Golladay, who was viewed as the top wide receiver talent, is having to get on a plane. The Giants want to meet him before they do anything. They want to speak with him in person. The Bengals offered him something, from what I'm told, but it's the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's a 1-year prove-it deal. Wow. I think it's just kind of shocking for a lot of these wide receivers. And for Juju, look, I got accused of being one of those people who was yelling at a cloud when I was like, I don't like the TikTok dancing before a game, and I don't necessarily like the dancing on a logo before a game. Look, everyone rocked me then in December and was like, you were being just a media hater or whatever. Juju Smith-Schuster, the line is not long right now. And I think the first impression for a lot of these GMs is like, I don't know if I need all that. It seems like a lot. Even though he's a good player, he's a great kid, and he's 24 years old. So the story from Ian Rappaport this morning was that the Jets are a possibility. Yeah, the Jets have had conversations with Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know if it's one of those deals where the Jets are on day 3 banging down the door and being like, wait, Juju's available? Let's go get him. So I think Juju, Golladay, Fuller, and their agents are a little surprised and might not have been expecting this to be the market.
Arizona got older. Did they get better?
I don't know. I think so, and I think it's not because of Watt and Green. think the name Rodney Hudson isn't a household name, but he's a 32-year-old center that the Raiders couldn't afford anymore, and they traded him 60 cents on the dollar to the Cardinals, and they know the time is now for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray's a running quarterback. Kyler Murray is one of these guys that is going to get injured time to time if you don't protect him. It happened last year in Week 17 when they needed him most. He wasn't available, and they had to go to a CFL retread as their quarterback against the Rams in that must-win. So Hudson protects him. At the very least, they're making moves. They're aggressive. J.J. Watt. I like even the kicker. They went and got Matt Prater, who's a reliable kicker. Zane Gonzalez missed a bunch last year. I appreciate teams that say, I know salary cap's not ideal, but let's go spend the money and we can make no excuses. Like, let's bring them in. I respect that. They were a few players away last year. They went and they at least made the attempts to get them. That NFC West, though, that's a loaded division.
Peter Schrager, NFL Network, Good Morning Football co-host. Explain to me the situation with the Bears and the Seahawks, that you get the two GMs together and you make your offer. Usually when you make an offer for a house, they counter your offer. And in this case, they just listened to the offer, took it back to Pete Carroll, and then Pete said no, and then that's it. Why did they listen to the Bears' offer in the first place, Peter?
Yeah, so I'm looking at a Billy Ripken famous card that's in front of you. If I was sitting here just on my couch or whatever, and you said, or your agent said publicly, we would love my Billy Ripken card to go to one of 4 cities, and one of them is where Peter Schrager resides, I would probably be like, whoa, okay, I want that Billy Ripken card. I'll call up, I'll inquire. The agent, Mark Rogers, dropped this out of nowhere, saying there are going to be 4 teams that he would waive his no trade clause for. The Bears never expected Russell Wilson in their plans, but once that came out, they were like, let's go, let's do it, let's go for it. And they tried really hard. And when they were all together out in Fargo, North Dakota last week for Trey Lance's pro day, I can tell you there were conversations had with Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy from the Bears, with John Schneider from the Seahawks. And the conversations were made and they didn't go anywhere. And Schneider's like, we're not trading him. So when he goes on your show, Dan, and he says comments about, and look, Russell Wilson might someday be a part of the Peacock family, and he might be a great ambassador. He doesn't usually come on and say anything controversial. We know that. Yeah. When he comes out and he says his offensive line, he'd like to see more investment on your show and make it public, people in Seattle might have been like, wait, what? Especially that offensive line. So you put these things together, Chicago had every right to go and make the most aggressive pitch. But at the end of the day, they didn't have a quarterback to trade back to Seattle. So Seattle's listening. And it's, okay, you can give us 16 first-round picks and Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith and the rights to Dick Butkus and Mike Singletary. Who's playing quarterback next year for Seattle? Just didn't make sense. So I get criticized today being like, oh, you made a big fuss over nothing. Look, when the agent comes on the record and lists 4 teams, and when the player who usually says nothing comes on the Dan Patrick show and says things about his offensive line, there was something. There's something indeed there.
Oh, no, it's there. Absolutely. But the question is, why would you listen to the Bears' offer unless you want to set the market that this is, we turned this down, so you better be ready to go. It feels like they have to expand their list there of possible destinations for Russell if he truly wants out. I was told, keep an eye on free agency. Will they do enough in free agency where Russell Wilson goes, okay, that's at least a step in the right direction. But
all right, well, Dan, we're 3 days in, and they've made a trade for Gabe Jackson from the Raiders, who is fine, while Joe Thuney was just signed to a 5-year, $80 million deal in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Rodney Hudson was just traded to protect Kyler Murray. And then you look at all the other top interior offensive linemen. Corey Linsley was just signed by the Chargers. Like, I know that the Cardinals and the Chargers and the Chiefs are doing whatever it takes to protect their quarterbacks. It's not like, hey, Russell Wilson went public with that offensive line talk and all that. Seahawks, it's almost as if Schneider and Carroll, like, we're not going to suddenly rip up our entire team to go and address your needs. We're going to do what we do, and we're going to build a football team. I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. But to your point, maybe the door isn't shut on a trade just yet. But the Bears one, I rest assured, the Bears made every possible offer they could even think of. Seahawks weren't making a trade with the Bears.
No, yeah, we always look at a trade from one angle. We always go, God, Russ going to the Bears, and then I'll go, well, what's Seattle getting? Yeah. Well, they're getting draft picks. Well, those aren't high draft picks. You're getting Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks. Okay, how does that address their quarterbacking situation? Now, if you said, "Hey, the Jets are giving you the second pick overall,"
Yep.
and okay, you got my attention because now I take Zach Wilson if I believe in him. Now I got my quarterback rookie contract. Now I'm good to go. Miami, I get Tua, and I'm going to get the third pick overall, and I'm going to get Devontae Smith if I want. All right, I like that. The Bears didn't have anything to offer that would intrigue Seattle from an offensive perspective there. So,
No, and the worst thing that the Bears had going for them is that they had this mediocre season and made the playoffs, so they have the 20th pick. It's like it's not like they get any accolades or any pats on the back for going to the wild card round and getting blown out by Drew Brees and the Saints. I also will go one step further here. It's like, the Panthers have the 8th pick. The Eagles have the 6th pick. There are teams that make it really, interesting for a trade for a quarterback that could maybe be the third team in. But to your point about what are we getting back, you'd be amazed, and maybe you wouldn't because you deal with this for 30 years, but I'm putting together trade offers and possibilities on Good Morning Football, the show on NFL Network, and I'm like, all right, so say the Jets offer the number 2 pick, and they offer Sam Darnold, and they offer Quinnen Williams. The amount of Jets fans that jump down your throat like, we're not giving up Quinnen Williams.
Yes, you will.
Like we're not giving up Quinnen Williams. No. And then you do the Dolphins and you're like, all right, you give up Tua and you also give up Devontae Parker and then you also give up Christian Wilkins. We're not giving up all that. It's like the same thing comes from the other side of it. The fans, they don't want to give up the thing. So trades are really hard. And for quarterbacks, you got to give up everything to get one of these guys.
Yeah, and that's where, if I'm Russ, I don't want to go to a Bears team that just gave up all of this to get me. Like, that doesn't make any sense because you're going to go and you're going to go to a team that's inferior. Hey, I get to have a say in what we do, and I like Matt Nagy's play calling. That ain't enough for me to go to the Bears. I want to go to a team where we're actually going to be good and not give up as much as, we should. Deshaun Watson, with what's going on now, it's going to be harder to trade him. But do you feel like the Texans now are more likely to trade him given what's gone on?
Well, let's see how that all plays out. It's ugly. But his stock, if you will, I almost feel like talking about the two topics in the same, breath is almost minimizing what's been accused. But the stock certainly isn't as high as it was a week ago. And, you double down on it. David Culley, the new head coach, was doing a lot of media last week, comes across as a really likable guy, a really open and honest guy, and it was very vulnerable. It was like, I want to coach Deshaun Watson. I really do. I just wish he would, it didn't say it, but in so many words, like, I wish he would give us a shot. And so you start putting these things together and you're like, all right, so they gave you $150 million last year. You guys won 4 games. I don't know what happened with what made you so upset, but the coach is saying he wants to have you here. Like, I don't know, at some point the tide was going to turn against Deshaun Watson in this conversation and be like, maybe you do give that team a shot. Maybe you be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem. And, they do have a new coach and new GM. Maybe you consider that. So now I think it's really interesting the way that the conversations about the Deshaun Watson trade go. And I'm not sure if he's as, whatever it is as a trade asset, if this story continues to take on the next levels of where it goes, because it certainly makes it a lot more complicated than it was when it was just, hey, here's a 25-year-old superstar on the Houston Texans who wants to trade.
Yeah, and if I'm offering something, now I'm going to probably reduce that. It feels like that the value has been reduced here. And look, I don't mean to diminish what is happening off the field, but my job is to talk about the sports angle of this.
That's exactly right. And for a lot of these GMs, whereas they might have been like, oh my God, gung-ho, Deshaun Watson. Now maybe they see all these reports. They see it's still trending on Twitter. They read all the legal papers and they're like, hey, look, I don't have to make this trade. I maybe it's just not worth all of my agita, and maybe it's not worth me getting involved in this, and that's someone else's problem, not mine.
Is Gardner Minshew going to land someplace interesting?
It's funny. There are trade talks going on, and maybe Minshew's got a second chapter, but I don't know if he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL this year. What I love seeing is Mike Glennon. He's signing a new deal. It's like, all right, these guys have lives. They have 9 lives. It's
amazing.
If you could be a backup quarterback and a likable dude in the locker room, like, there's a place for you if you're willing to be that number 2.
Chase Daniel.
Another guy, really wealthy.
He might be one of the greatest preseason quarterbacks of all time.
always delivers in like the second half of that third game. Second half of that third preseason game, Chase Daniel will put up numbers.
He'll light it up.
He will. Always.
We need to do fantasy football preseason.
We should. I remember Cleo Lemon for
the Colts?
Chargers, not the Dolphins, but when he's on the Chargers, like lit it up in the fourth quarter. I'm like, Cleo Lemon, love it.
Good luck with your bracket there.
I'm going real big on North Texas because my son likes the nickname the Mean Green. So let's go, North Texas.
Yep. Hey, they're different strategies, you know.
They're not nice.
You're
mean.
either first place or last place, Peter.
You're right. I'm in.
Yeah, all in. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate you.
That's Peter Schrager, host of NFL Network's Good Morning Football. That airs Monday through Friday at 7 Eastern. You can follow him on Twitter at PShregs.